as I mentioned earlier, the breakthrough cases aren't as rare as they were before. And of course, as always, the experts are scrambling to figure out why this is happening. How could this happen? How could we encourage all of these people to get this jab and they're still getting sick? Let's look at this. This is covered by the Post Gazette, and we're going to read this. It's titled, Breakthrough COVID-19 Cases Are Rising, and experts are trying to figure out what exactly that means. I know what it means. You don't need to be an expert to know what that fucking means. It means that your beloved injection ain't working like you claimed that it was. U.S. Rep. Mike Doyle woke up 4 a.m. Wednesday at his Washington, D.C. apartment with fever and chills, fearing the worst. Later, man, imagine that. Like, we used to wake up. Let me just pause there for a second. We used to wake up with, like, being sick, and that was just like a thing. Like, oh, man, I might have to call into work or something because I'm not feeling well. And now it's like, oh, my God, I got the COVIDs. I got the COVIDs. It's weird, man. Later, he tested positive for COVID-19 despite having been fully vaccinated against the disease in January. Now he's quarantined until September the 1st. Thankful he got 2 Pfizer vaccines, even though he got 6. My lungs are clear and I'm able to breathe easily, so I feel protected since I've been vaccinated. The vaccine only protects you so you don't end up on a ventilator or dead. Well, that's kind of harsh words, but it's not entirely incorrect. It's a symptom mitigator at best. Doctors say no vaccine is 100% effective, but the COVID-19 vaccines can save your life by making this disease less serious than if you hadn't gotten the shots. As the total number of vaccines administered rises, an increasing number of vaccinated people like Mr. Doyle will develop so-called breakthrough COVID-19 infections. But just how common such infections are isn't well known. You know why? Because in May, those assholes at the CDC decided they weren't going to collect the data anymore. I don't know if they reinstated that, but they decided they weren't going to collect the data for like not serious cases, only for hospitalizations and deaths. So a lot of these shits is blind. Now, there are some states that are still keeping up with it, but the CDC decided, I don't know, maybe it's because they are getting results that they don't want people to know about. They decided not to cover it. They decided to stop collecting the data. Just how common such infections here isn't well known. The Pennsylvania Department of Health has made a collection of data priority, but numbers were not available on this particular development. That's just so funny. Isn't it? They got data on all this other shit, but when it specifically comes to breakthrough infections, oh shit, where's the data? Where's the data? We don't know what's going on. Ain't that some shit? I don't know, man. That just seems just a little bit convenient for me, man. That's all I'm saying. But numbers were not available on this particular development, even as number of new cases overall in Pennsylvania climbs to totals not seen since this spring. Nationwide, breakthrough totals come with caveats. As of August 23rd, 11,050 people in the 49 U.S. states and territories who have been fully vaccinated were later hospitalized or died. That's a big-ass number, by the way. But, yeah, it's across 50 states, so in retrospect, it's not that big. However, that's just referring to people that have been hospitalized or they died from it. That's not people that have been infected. More than 171 Americans who have been fully vaccinated. Here's the hitch. National surveillance relies on passive and voluntary reporting, and data are not complete or representative, according to the CDC, which is conducting several studies of COVID-19 breakthrough rates. Man, surely it would help if you prioritize obtaining that data, huh? Officials believe the total count of breakthrough infections was likely an undercount. No shit! Especially because some people do not have symptoms of the disease or have only mild infection. We're being ruled over by fucking idiots. What the fuck? No shit, man. No shit. This is why I said when people would say breakthrough cases are rare, how do you fucking know? How do you know that? If you're only referring to people that have been hospitalized, how on earth do you know that? You have no idea. This is why my argument, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but myself, I'm just putting two and two together. How do you fucking know that? You don't know if it's how rare it actually is. You don't know. Definitely, when you yourself are referring to this as more of a symptom mitigator as opposed to a traditional vaccine, it's a symptom mitigator. You have fucking no idea. This is why the whole pandemic of the unvaccinated was a bullshit term. It made no sense because we knew that there were people that were getting the jab that were still being infected. Now, did that mean that, well, they might not, be hospitalized? Yeah. But the same can be said if you are like young and healthy. You might not get hospitalized even though you got COVID as well. So how exactly do they know? They don't. We're being ruled over by fucking morons, man. Like, people have led, unfortunately, and there's a bunch of compromised folks in the medical community, right? Because they have let their, politics and their, fear of being wrong rule over themselves so they can then rule over everybody else. So it's controlled, right? There are some unfortunate, albeit inconvenient, truths about this. They're not upfront with it, right? So of course it's a fucking undercount. You have no idea. You have no fucking idea. But you just assume that, well, it's got to be the unvaccinated, right? Because they're getting hospitalized, blah, blah, blah. But you don't. This whole, well, it's because I'm getting it from somebody like we talked about with Corey Taylor or whatever, who's suggesting that some fan that was unvaccinated gave it to him. You fucking moron. It could be your bandmate or whoever else that could have gave it to your punk ass. You have no idea. The Alec Jenny, I have no idea how to say that. Let's say A County. Based on limited testing data, the health department is seeing COVID-19 breakthrough rates of about 30%. That's 30%. That ain't rare, motherfucker. That's not rare. Among people hospitalized with the virus in Pittsburgh region, the percentage who have been fully vaccinated ranges between 70 and 40%. Depending on the time period measured. Many breakthroughs occur in people who are older or who are immunocompromised, which, again, that could also be said for unvaccinated folk, or people who have chronic medical conditions such as diabetes or lung problems. Older people's immune response may not be as good, said Michael Craddy, chief medical officer at Heritage Valley Health System, where 20% of people hospitalized for COVID were fully vaccinated. That's not a small number. That's beyond rare at that point. Rare is, 0.0%. That's like, okay, that's an outlier. When we start talking about and it's funny how they word that. It's like, depending on what date you start. I don't know. How about we take recently? I bet that's the part that's 40%. But most have done pretty well. 17 people were hospitalized for COVID-19 overall in Beaver County on Friday, including 7 in intensive care units and 3 on ventilators, according to the Health State Department. About 47% of the country's eligible population has been fully vaccinated as of Thursday, CDC indicates. Individuals who don't require ventilators typically do better than those who do require ventilators. Dr. Fox, thanks for such a profound statement right there. In the month of August, this is coming from vaccinated patients who wound up infected, blah, 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 have generally done better than those who were not inoculated. So that's the selling point at this point. They're going to have to end up abandoning the narrative that you can't pass it or you can't get sick. It's like you get sick less. That's more so the narrative now. It's a symptom mitigator, man. In the month of August, 7% of the patients hospitalized for COVID were fully vaccinated, but none required mechanical ventilation to aid filling lungs. On Friday, 32 people were treated for COVID-19 at Excella hospitals. At Washington Health System, between 25% and 40% of patients hospitalized for COVID-19 were fully vaccinated. Dog, that's over a quarter, bro. A quarter to 40%. For COVID-19 were fully vaccinated. They tend to be older with comorbidities. They're relatively less severe cases. As of Thursday, Washington County had 26 people hospitalized for COVID-19, including 9 in intensive care and 2 on ventilators. According to the health department, the CDC said 59.2% of the eligible population was fully vaccinated. 52% of the eligible U.S. population had been fully vaccinated as of Friday, according to CDC. But basically what you're seeing is that the quote-unquote experts are scrambling because they're having to now explain why there is a rising number of breakthrough cases. And those breakthrough cases being more so referring to hospitalizations because really the data is sketchy. Because, again, if a person is infected and has, gets infected and can pass it along or something along and they don't have any symptoms, so they're like not sick, then, yeah, of course they're not going to go to the hospital and you never know. But that's the thing. And this is why why the long, let's say, random control trials, longer forms of those were very important, which we never really got with the vaccine, right? We never got that. It was just get the jab and we'll see what the fuck happens. You are the test subject at that point. And we see all of this news. And yet I had to go search for this, by the way. They're not gonna lead with this because, again, a lot of people will have to have egg on their face, right? So we know what's going on in Israel. We talked about that. So you can take that into consideration. And by the way, if you don't know what we're referring to their new study, which is a bunch of studies that have been basically saying this, that folks that have got it and recovered, don't have the vaccine, are seeming to have better protection from reinfections and illnesses associated with COVID-19 going in the future in comparison to someone that did get the jab. Okay, so you have that. You have what we're talking about right now, where you have a rising number of cases with breakthrough cases, meaning that people that got vaccinated are getting sick still, which they're passing it along and everything. It is not irrational for somebody to look at that and say, I want to wait this stuff out, or rather, I just want to assume the risk. And if I catch it, I catch it, which most of us maybe, there is natural immunity that's there. But some of us are going to end up getting it. And a lot of us are. And if we get it, we get it, we'll recover. Some people want to assume that risk, and that's their right. It's not an irrational. When you consider what's happening right now, it is not a rational response. It is not an irrational response. It is a perfectly rational one. Don't let these weirdos gaslight you. So, yeah, you guys that are getting the jab that are all high and mighty, think you're the best people in the world, you may actually be a super spreader. You just watched a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake. Catch us live at 12 p.m. throughout the week over at youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and follow us over at odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. If you want to watch the entire video cast after the show is over, just be sure to become a member on the YouTube channel. Of course, the full audio portion of the podcast is available for free on all major digital platforms, or just visit forcanonsake.com.